This is PropertyBT, a podcast of BT correspondents.
There are many property agents in town, over 36,000 at the start of this year, according to the Council for Estate Agencies, or CEA. According to the CEA's 2024 Public Perception Survey, while a record 92% of property consumers are satisfied with the agent services, more are seeking clearer advice and better guidance from agents. As buying a home in Singapore often represents a person's single largest financial transaction, can more be done to make agents better serve consumers? Welcome to PropertyBT. I'm Leslie Yee, Senior Correspondent of the Business Times. Today, I will discuss with Prof Sing Tien Foo how property agents can better serve consumers. Prof Sing is Provost Chair Professor in the Department of Real Estate at the National University of Singapore's Business School. Prof Sing, a warm welcome.
Leslie, thanks for inviting me.
Property agents have to abide by high ethical standards. Still, there are rogue agents who mislead buyers, unduly pressure buyers, and wrongly advise clients, perhaps motivated by greed. Prof Sing, when agents go rogue, should penalties on agencies and agency bosses be stiffer?
Given the large number of registered salespersons, I think probably it will be difficult to rule out the small minority who actually act unprofessionally. I think the important thing is to ensure that there are proper safeguards, especially from the consumer perspective. So what should be the responsibility of agency? Each of these estate agents will have what we call the KEO, Key Executive Officer, who actually responsible to supervise. So the estate agency or even the Key Executive Officer had to make sure that all the salesperson are properly trained and properly advised and also be able to carry out their works and follow the proper guideline. I think this is very, very important.
So you think it's a mix of maybe a bit more training at the same time, possibly tougher penalties on the agencies?
I think there are two groups from those people who actually make some mistake along the way. One of them actually is due to ignorance or maybe inexperience. This sort of inexperience or mistake can be actually overcome through training, through education, even through proper organization structure to reduce some of these mistakes. But the other group of problems are a little bit more difficult, especially those driven by greed and ill motive. I think we look at the case of money laundering, 10 foreign investors who actually invested quite a lot of money in the property. I think a lot of sales agents also implicated. This is a time where we need to actually further tighten to actually remove or eliminate some of these practices.
Certainly, having the agents do more to act against money laundering is definitely very important. What's maybe more of a grey area is that to close big-ticket property deals, agents often create a sense of urgency to make buyers feel that there's product scarcity out there, right? So that buyers will buy today for fear of missing out as prices may get high in future. Prof Sing, do agents contribute to raising the anxiety of potential buyers that home prices will rise further?
We can actually look at this issue from two segments of the market. On one hand, it's actually the resale market, where agents actually involved dealing with individual owners who want to sell their property in the resale market. Unlike stock market, where we know the prices every day, property prices and property market is quite imperfect. So this agent role is actually to step in to help buyer and seller both sides actually to be better informed and advised in terms of purchase price. And on the other hand, we also have another market which is slightly more transparent. This is a new sale market where developer actually set the price. So in this case, the role of a salesperson is less on the information aspect and they want to close the deal quickly. We have seen in the last few months a lot of new launches, people actually rushing and competing to put their check even before the launch. How much of this influenced by agent? Agent may not be able to influence the price, but they can actually create anxiety or distortion or even impulsive purchase. So I think this is important for buyers to understand a little bit more, not just looking at one project or not just listening to the advice, but they have to also compare notes and making their own market research to find out more.
I think that's very good advice. Buyers should also do their own homework and checks and maybe stay a bit cool.
Yeah.
I guess the property agency landscape has changed quite a bit over the years, right? Today, a few big boys dominate the market. At the start of the year, the top 5 agencies led by number 1 Propnex Realty and number 2 ERA Realty Network accounted for over 31,000 agents, or market share of about 87%. The big agencies have a lot of marketing power when it comes to selling new condo projects. Hence, commission rates today on new condo projects are generally much higher than some years back. Prof Sing, is the dominance of a few big agencies healthy for the industry? What can be done to change this market dynamic?
If we look at the composition of the market, it's also quite distinct between the resale and the new sale market. I think this big agency, because of the sheer size, gives them some competitive advantage in securing some of these new launch marketing projects. I think for the resale segment, the competition is much stronger because there are so many smaller agencies.
So with resale, maybe the smaller agencies can still be quite competitive.
Yes. In fact, we did a study. We found that actually for the resale market, individual seller benefited because of these dispersed structures. The new sale market is the one that having problems now because of the 2 biggest agency control about 60%. If you add the other 3 biggest agencies, they're about 80% of the sales force. Basically, the whole market is dominated by them. It's very difficult because if the developer enter the market and come to choose the agency, they don't have any other choice other than this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, then this is not a very competitive market. Will this dominance translate into higher costs? Because if you look at the resale market, the fee is quite standard, probably about 1 to 2%. But you look at the new sale market, the commission fee, 3%, 5%, they even go up more than 5%. How do you justify such a high commission rate? This is something that is important to carefully monitor.
So do you think the number 1, number 2 will get an even bigger share over time? And do other players have to think about consolidating? Do you think that will happen?
Difficult to actually challenge the biggest 2 agencies currently because they are also aggressively recruiting and expanding. So what is the intention? What is the motive of getting more agents? Is it that the agent number is not sufficient to meet the project marketing demands? Or is it just simply because you want to corner the market share? Because if you look at the last few years, in fact, the new launches, the number have actually declined. Yet the number of agents actually increased. If there is a scenario, then that will end up to be a zero-sum game.
Interesting. So, yeah, I think there's lots to ponder there about the size, the dominance of the big agencies, but no easy solutions. Still to come, are sales commission rates too high? Also, should inactive agents be struck off? That's after the break.
Breaking news from the Business Times podcast team.
Hi guys, this is Emily Liu, your host of Market Focus Daily. I've got some great news. Come July, Market Focus is getting bigger. I'll be bringing in market and investment experts into the studio to share analysis and opinions on what moved the markets and what to look out for in the week ahead. Every Friday, starting on July 4th.
Look out for Market Focus Weekly from the Business Times or wherever you get your podcasts.
And now, back to PropertyBT, a podcast of BT correspondents.
Welcome back to PropertyBT. I'm Leslie Yee. Prof Sing, earlier we mentioned about commission rates for new private homes, right? These may be over 2%, possibly 3% or even more. Prof Sing, are commission rates for home sales in Singapore too high? Is there a need for more regulation?
Again, we need to look at these questions from 2 aspects. I think for the resale market, because of the dispersed agency structures, we do not see that the commission rate has gone beyond 2% or sometimes even go down. However, on the other side, you look at the new sale market, the marketing fee seems to be quite high, between 3 to 5% and some even higher. I think we have to ask what role and responsibility that the agent carry in order to justify this fee. If you look at the new launches, can actually move quite quickly without having a lot of effort to do the matching or to find buyers, because buyer will come to show flat and then put a check up front. If in a very difficult market, where the market is very illiquid, where there are a lot more supply than the buyers, then I think the need for the agent to fill the gap will be more critical. Then the higher fee probably more justifiable. Because otherwise, if the high fee is just to provide a very basic information, then I think some of these role can be replaced by technology, and this will be translated into lower transaction costs, and this can actually help to benefit the consumer as well.
Prof Sing, so I guess potentially maybe with further study, regulating commission rates on sales of new homes may be something worth considering. We have talked a lot about the large number of property agents and the ability of the industry to draw new joiners. However, the reality is many agents don't do well, right? Many agents struggle. They hardly close any deals, not even one a year in some cases. Of course, some of these inactive agents, they could well be busy with other things, right? Such as family commitments, other business pursuits, and so forth. Prof Sing, are there too many inactive agents, and should inactive agents be struck off?
We look at the current market situation, probably 50% of these agents may not have closed any transaction, but they still keep on to their license. And then every year we see probably about a few thousand new agents enter the market. In terms of productivity-wise, I think it's not very healthy if you continue to see this situation where the sales number have not increased. Because if you look at the market, it has actually stabilized around 50,000 transactions a year. If you divide by the number of salesperson, each agent technically will be handling slightly less than 1.5 transaction. If the market want to further improve the productivity, is 1.5 per agent a good number? If you continue to have a lot of these agents enter the market and then they realize that the competition is so strong, they are not able to actually make the end meet, I think this will not be good in the long term.
Prof Sing, besides the private homes market, in Singapore there's also a very active HDB resale flat market, right? And the returns agents can get from selling a rising number of HDB resale flats can be fairly good. Yet, on reflection, consumers may benefit if the role of property agents in transacting HDB resale flats is eliminated, right? Prof Sing, should the HDB take over from agents the middleman role in the sale of HDB resale flats?
For HDB market, 80% of the residents actually live in HDB market. It's actually a much bigger market compared to a private market. And also given the rising HDB prices, I think the commission rate become more and more attractive because of the volume. Actually, there are a lot of agents involved in this resale market transaction. Some even specialize in this. So to some extent, this agent can help to bridge the information gap because I think this market is a little bit more difficult. For example, buyers may have very specific kind of requirements. I want to stay near my parents. I want to live in a 4-room flat, 5-room flat. Because I think this kind of specification, I think it's difficult to do the matching.
So you don't think the HDB itself can do a better job of matching buyers and sellers than agents?
Because I think HDB primary role is to actually build and keep the price affordability. What they're trying to do is to reduce the information frictions because they do not want that market to be distorted by some unprofessional agent. I think HDB is affordable housing. If you start to lease or even market HDB flat at $2 million, $2.5 million, that is something that is distorting the market. It creates unintended social consequences. They are trying to create a platform to allow individual owners or buyers to be able to understand the market better. So I think they set up the resale flat portal last year. I think this will be a good platform. At least you offer alternative. If you want to sell yourself, you can actually consider this resale flat portal as an alternative option. Then you can reduce the transaction cost.
Certainly have given us a lot to ponder over. Thank you to my guest, Professor Sing Tien Foo of NUS Business School.
Thank you, Leslie.
That's it for PropertyBT this time. Happy property hunting. Next week, BT correspondents will be back with an all-new episode on markets. So do subscribe to our channel and check it out. If you have any thoughts or questions about the show, email us at btpodcast@sph.com.sg. I'm Leslie Yee. As always, thank you for listening. See you next week.
This is a podcast by the Business Times. Find more BT podcasts at businesstimes.com.sg/podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. This podcast is meant to provide general information only. SPH Media accepts no liability for loss arising from any reliance on the podcast or use of third parties' products and services. Please consult professional advisors for independent advice.